Hi, I'm Michael Castiglione. I'm a chief designer here at Advanced Product Design Center. It's called Pacifica in Chrysler.
I'm Alan Barrington, designer at the Pacifica Studio and designer of the Challenger interior.
It's actually kind of unusual that we do an advanced project, at least out of this studio, that we know is going into production. And this is the same case with Challenger. We had no idea it would go into production. The goal was to create this really cool concept car. It was always the goal, and it wasn't for months and months after that where they really started noticing, I think Chrysler really started noticing there was a lot of passion for this thing. And okay, let's look at a business case, or what would it really take to build it. Fortunately, it got handed off to some really talented designers back in Detroit to follow the exterior and the interior. And their goal was to make it a production version of the concept car. You see a lot of concept cars, you see a lot of production cars, and they have the same nameplate, but they're pretty different. And the goal on this was to always capture the look of the concept car, and they did a killer job with it. You know, there was a few challenges on this car that, you know, we cheated a little bit. We widened the rear quarter a little bit to give it a little bit more shape to it. The sills were tucked in a little bit more than production would be. And the bumpers were, you know, the offsets and the bumpers were cheated a little bit. So with that in mind, creating the surface, we wanted to make sure, okay, if I could imagine this bumper coming out a little bit, or the sills coming out, or a few little tweaks here and there to make it production, is the design still going to stand on its feet? Is it going to fall apart? So we made sure of that.
Part of our job is to come up with a real pure theme, or something that, you know, people identify immediately, you know, that they can relate to the original cars, and is progressive, but something that could translate into production as well. On the interior, I think the theme translated really well. Obviously, in the concept, I took some liberties and had to make some compromises that you wouldn't be able to do in production, like the angle of the IP and the center stack. Pretty much took all that out. But for production, you know, we have certain radios and things that we use, HVAC systems that, you know, are going to be incorporated in the design. But as far as the, you know, the gauges and the doors and the important parts that I really wanted to get communicated, I think they did an excellent job. It's really going to show.
Sometimes you see the trade-offs, and I think most of the trade-offs they've done to try and get it into production have been really good decisions. But you're right, sometimes you think, wow, you know, I wonder if we could have done that a little bit differently, or this. But I think overall, all the decisions were made on it were really good, and I think the couple things that may lack a tiny bit of purity, I think will be overlooked. What's cool too is we have a good melting pot of designers. You know, like Alan's from Texas. I grew up in LA, and we actually did go to the same school. There's a lot of guys here who've been to, you know, CCS, which is a school in Detroit. Guys who grew up in Detroit. Akino Toshiya, she grew up in Japan. She's an awesome designer that works here as well. We've had a few from Royal College, which is in London. And what we've found is usually when that melting pot is from all the corners of the world, is kind of when we're doing our best stuff.
You know, even on this project, there were 3 different themes going, and Akino's was one of them. And she has no connection to muscle cars or any background with muscle cars, so to see her interpretation of what it might be, she actually came up with one of the hottest ones.
It was really good.
It's nice to almost get, you know, an outside view and, you know, totally objective view of what it could be.
We have reviews every Friday. Everyone's allowed to throw their input in. It's not like it's, okay, only the senior guys can come to this review and give their input. We try to get everyone's input, even, you know, clay modelers, you know, the operations guy comes in and gives his input a lot. And it's all beneficial to developing the car. Anyone who's driven probably any of our SRT8 products, the 300 or the Magnum or the Charger, is probably really surprised at how nimble that car is for how large it is. It really drives very tight, like it's a lot smaller car. I think the SRT group is doing a killer job. So yeah, it's inspiring to work for a company where that type of performance is important to them again. So knowing that, you know, that all that SRT knowledge is going to be applied to Challenger is great. There's a couple websites that are specifically for the new Challenger, and that just blew me away when I saw that. And then not only are they there, but they get a lot of participation in them. And I think it's just awesome to be part of this.
I think every week we come in with a new toy that they've come out with it or something, and so our desk is all full of, you know, the new toys that come out.
Hot Wheels and radio control cars. And
mine is basically just kind of an architectural type lettering, but it's completely different than what I sign checks with, so it's just kind of my sketch signature. But it's somewhat legible, where my check one is just scribble. So.
Mine actually developed in college, and I was at Art Center, and one of my instructors said, "Man, you need to come up with a unique C." So I started doing this sort of backward stroke C that crossed the T, and kind of just stuck, so I've been doing it ever since. Not real legible, though.